What if I told you that before the red carpets, movie deals, and screaming fans, some of Hollywood's biggest black stars were living a completely different life? Long before the spotlight found them, they were caught up in street life, serious trouble, and choices that could have ended everything before it even started. At the moment when their futures looked darkest, fame was the last thing anyone expected. But somehow, they flipped the script. From jail cells to center stage, these stories were almost erased, softened, or never talked about at all. Here are 19 black stars who were criminals before Hollywood and how they escaped a past that nearly destroyed them. 19. Danny Trejo. Long before Hollywood ever noticed him, Danny Trejo was already living a life filled with crime, chaos, and constant danger. Growing up in a rough Los Angeles neighborhood, he was surrounded by drugs, violence, and bad influences from a very young age. Crime was not something distant or shocking to him. It was normal, almost expected. As a teenager, he became deeply involved in drug use and armed robbery. His life quickly spiraled, and prison became a regular part of his story instead of a warning sign. Danny spent years moving in and out of correctional facilities. He was arrested multiple times for serious crimes, including armed robbery and drug offenses. At one point, his life felt completely stuck, like there was no way out of the cycle he was trapped in. Prison was harsh, but it also became the place where change slowly began. While incarcerated, he committed to getting clean and started focusing on discipline, boxing, and personal growth. These choices did not erase his past, but they gave him something new to hold on to. After his release, Danny focused on staying sober and helping others do the same. He worked as a drug counselor and spoke openly about his past mistakes. His entry into Hollywood did not come through auditions or dreams of fame. It happened by chance when he was helping someone on a film set and ended up being noticed for his tough appearance and real-life intensity. Casting directors saw authenticity written all over him. Danny Trejo's criminal past became part of what made him believable on screen. He did not act tough, he lived it. Roles in crime films and gritty dramas followed, turning him into one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces. His story fits this title perfectly because his road to fame was not paved with privilege, but with prison bars, hard lessons, and real consequences. If stories like this surprise you and make you see fame in a whole new way, don't move on just yet. Hit the subscribe button, stay with the channel, and keep watching because the next story might be even more shocking than this one. 18. Mike Epps. Before Mike Epps became a familiar face in comedy films and television, his life was moving in a very different direction. Growing up in Indianapolis, he was surrounded by poverty, street pressure, and limited opportunities. As a teenager, he drifted into hustling and petty crime, not because he wanted fame or danger, but because survival felt more urgent than long-term thinking. The streets offered fast money, and at that age, the risks did not fully register. Mike was arrested multiple times during his youth. Jail became a reality he knew well, not something he heard stories about. Each arrest pushed him deeper into frustration, but it also slowly built awareness. Sitting in a cell gave him time to think about how narrow his future was becoming. He later admitted that continuing down that road would only lead to longer sentences or worse outcomes. The lifestyle promised respect but delivered fear and limits. Comedy entered his life almost by accident. Mike realized he had a natural gift for making people laugh, even in tense situations. Humor became a release, a way to cope with pressure and pain without violence. When he moved to New York, he made a clear decision to leave crime behind and chase comedy seriously. It was not an easy shift. He struggled financially and emotionally, but he stayed away from the streets. Over time, his raw honesty and street-smart humor helped him stand out. Hollywood did not erase his past, but it gave him a new lane. Roles in major films followed, often playing characters shaped by real-life experiences. His story fits this title because crime was once his path, not his image. Comedy became his exit, and acting became the proof that change was possible even after repeated mistakes. 17. Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars is often seen as a polished performer with smooth vocals and a clean image. But his journey included a serious stumble that could have ended everything early. Growing up in a musical family, he was exposed to performance at a young age. However, when fame arrived quickly, pressure followed just as fast. During the early stage of his career, he made a choice that put everything at risk. He was arrested in Las Vegas for cocaine possession, a charge that carried serious consequences. At that point, he was still building his name, and the arrest threatened to define him before his music ever could. The situation was a wake-up call. Unlike many stories rooted in long-term street crime, Bruno's case showed how one reckless moment could derail years of hard work. Instead of denying responsibility, he accepted the consequences. He completed community service and followed court requirements without public excuses. More importantly, he changed his behavior. He stepped away from distractions and refocused fully on his craft. Music became his anchor again, not fame or lifestyle excess. Hollywood and the music industry are unforgiving, especially to rising stars. Yet Bruno rebuilt trust through discipline and consistency. His success after the arrest was not accidental. It came from learning quickly and choosing growth over ego. While his criminal involvement was brief, it was real and documented, placing him firmly within this list. His story shows how close fame and failure can be, especially before a career fully takes shape. 16. Jay-Z. Before becoming Jay-Z grew up in the Marcy Projects of Brooklyn, surrounded by drugs, violence, and limited escape routes. As legal options existed, and survival often meant hard choices. His acting roles and business ventures carried the same authenticity that made his music powerful. His story was a phase. It was a foundation he consciously walked away from, turning live. 15. Method Man's rise to fame began far from movie sets and red carpets. Growing up in Staten Island, he faced unstable teen. RZA. Before RZA became known as the creative brain behind one of the most influential hip-hop groups ever, his life was closely tied to the streets. Growing up in New York, he was surrounded by crime, drugs, and constant tension. During his youth, he became involved in street activity and drug dealing, viewing it as a normal part of survival rather than a dangerous path. At that stage, music was not yet his escape. The streets felt unavoidable. Everything changed after a violent incident that nearly destroyed his future. RZA was charged in an attempted homicide case following a shooting. Although he was later acquitted, the experience shook him deeply. Facing the possibility of prison forced him to confront how close he was to losing his freedom forever. That moment became a turning point, not because the system punished him, but because he finally saw where his choices were leading. After the case, RZA pulled away from street life. He began focusing fully on music, discipline, and self-education. Instead of chaos, he searched for structure and purpose. This shift led to the formation of the Wu-Tang Clan, a group built on raw honesty, shared struggle, and survival. His past gave him insight into pain, anger, and resilience, which shaped the group's sound and message. Later, RZA transitioned into acting and filmmaking. Hollywood recognized his depth, not just his talent. His criminal past was real and documented, but it became fuel rather than a label. His story fits this title because crime was once part of his daily life, and escaping it required a conscious, life-altering decision. 13. A$AP Rocky. A$AP Rocky's early life was marked by instability, loss, and constant struggle. Growing up in Harlem, he experienced homelessness at a young age after his family fell on hard times. With limited support and few options, survival came before dreams. As a teenager, he began selling crack cocaine to make money, not for status, but to get through each day. His involvement in street activity eventually led to arrest and short jail time. Those moments exposed him to the harsh reality of where his life was heading. The streets promised fast money, but they also came with constant fear and limited futures. Jail did not glamorize the lifestyle. It stripped it down to consequences and lost time. Art slowly became his way out. Rocky turned to music, fashion, and creative expression as tools for escape. He poured his experiences into his work, using pain and struggle as inspiration rather than shame. This approach helped him stand out, not just as a rapper, but as a cultural figure. As his career grew, Hollywood took notice. Acting roles and fashion partnerships followed, placing him far from the streets that once controlled his life. His story belongs on this list because his criminal involvement came before fame and directly shaped who he became. The transition from street survival to global recognition was not smooth, but it was intentional. His past did not disappear. It became part of the foundation that carried him forward. 12. Snoop Dogg. Long before Snoop Dogg became a household name, his life was rooted in gang culture and street activity. Growing up in Long Beach, he became a member of the Rollin' 20 Crips, a decision shaped by environment rather than ambition. Alongside gang involvement, he was also connected to drug dealing during his youth, seeing it as normal within his surroundings. His criminal behavior led to real consequences. Snoop was convicted of cocaine possession and spent time incarcerated. That period could have pushed him deeper into crime, but instead, it opened a different door. While locked up, people around him encouraged him to focus on rapping, recognizing his natural talent with words and rhythm. Music became a lifeline. When he returned to the streets, he chose a different route, channeling real experiences into lyrics instead of illegal activity. His authenticity set him apart. He was not acting tough. He was telling the truth. That honesty helped launch his career and later opened doors into film and television. Hollywood embraced Snoop not despite his past, but because of the realness it brought to his performances. His criminal history was not fabricated or exaggerated. It was documented and acknowledged. His journey fits this title perfectly, showing how someone deeply tied to crime before fame could redirect that energy into long-term success and cultural influence. 11. Trick Daddy's early life was shaped by crime from the very beginning. Growing up in Miami, he was raised in a household already connected to criminal activity. His father was involved in serious offenses, and that environment normalized illegal behavior. As a teenager, Trick Daddy began selling crack cocaine alongside his brother, following a path that felt almost inherited. His involvement with crime quickly escalated. He was arrested multiple times during his youth and eventually convicted of attempted homicide. This was not a minor charge or a misunderstanding. It was a serious crime with life-altering consequences. Prison became a reality, forcing him to face the weight of his actions at a young age. While incarcerated, he began to reconsider his direction. Music became his outlet, offering a way to express anger, regret, and survival without violence. After his release, he committed himself fully to rap, using his experiences as raw material rather than something to hide. His music career eventually opened doors into acting and media appearances. Hollywood recognized his authenticity, the kind that cannot be taught or faked. Trick Daddy's past fits this title because crime was not a phase or rumor. It was real, dangerous, and costly. Acting and music became his way out, transforming a criminal past into a platform for expression and redemption. 10. T.I. Before becoming a chart-topping artist and recognizable face in films and television, T.I. grew up in neighborhoods where poverty and crime were part of daily life. Raised in Atlanta, he was exposed early to drug activity and street hustling. As a teenager, he sold crack cocaine, seeing it as a way to gain control in an environment that offered few legal paths forward. At that age, long-term consequences felt distant and unreal. His street involvement earned him respect locally, but it also brought constant risk. Arrests and close calls made it clear that the lifestyle had an expiration date. T.I. eventually realized that the streets did not reward loyalty or patience. They only led to jail or worse. This understanding did not come from lectures, but from watching others fall around him. Music became his exit strategy. He began transforming his lived experiences into lyrics, turning survival stories into art. His honesty resonated with listeners and gave him momentum in the industry. As his career expanded, Hollywood took notice. Acting roles followed, often reflecting the same gritty realism that defined his music. T.I.'s story fits this title because crime was not an image crafted for entertainment. It was part of his early life before fame. His transition into acting did not erase that past. Instead, it reframed it, proving that lived experience could become a tool for growth rather than a permanent label. 9. DMX's early life was marked by instability, trauma, and constant movement. Raised in difficult environments, he struggled with abandonment and abuse from a young age. Crime entered his life early, not as rebellion, but as a response to chaos. As a teenager, he became involved in theft and street crime, leading to repeated arrests. He spent time in juvenile detention and later faced jail time for serious offenses, including carjacking. These experiences hardened him, but also left deep emotional scars. The criminal system did not offer healing, only punishment. Each arrest pushed him further into anger and distrust, yet also highlighted how trapped he had become. Music became his emotional release. Writing and performing allowed him to express pain that had nowhere else to go. As his music career grew, acting opportunities followed. His raw presence on screen mirrored the intensity of his real life. He did not need to act broken or aggressive. Those emotions were already part of him. DMX's criminal past was real and documented long before Hollywood ever called. His story belongs on this list because crime shaped his early identity. Acting and music did not erase that pain, but they gave it purpose, turning survival into expression and struggle into storytelling. 8. 50 Cent Curtis Jackson, later known as 50 Cent, grew up in an environment where crime felt unavoidable. Raised in Queens after losing his mother at a young age, he learned survival skills early. At just 12, he began selling crack cocaine. The streets became his classroom, teaching him lessons about power, risk, and loss long before adulthood. His involvement in drug dealing led to arrests, including a serious incident involving gun possession at school. He faced the possibility of long prison sentences for his actions. Instead of serving an extended time behind bars, he was placed in a boot camp program, an experience that forced discipline and reflection. It became a turning point rather than a pause. After stepping away from crime, he focused on music as a way out. His lyrics reflected real experiences, not fantasy. That authenticity fueled his rise and later opened doors into acting and business. Hollywood embraced him because his presence felt real, shaped by survival rather than performance training. 50 Cent's story fits this title because his criminal life came first. Fame followed later. Acting became another chapter, built on a foundation of lived consequences and hard-earned awareness. 7. James Brown's rise to legendary status began with a troubled and difficult youth. Born into extreme poverty, he dropped out of school early and drifted into crime as a teenager. Survival came before dreams, and bad decisions followed quickly. One of those decisions led to armed robbery, a crime that changed his life forever. He was arrested and sentenced to juvenile detention, where discipline replaced chaos for the first time. Structure, routine, and responsibility were enforced daily. While confinement was harsh, it also provided something he had never experienced before: guidance. During this period, he discovered music and performance as outlets for his energy and frustration. The experience reshaped him. Upon release, he committed to staying out of trouble and focusing on music. That focus transformed him into one of the most influential performers of all time. Later, his presence extended into film and television, placing him within the broader Hollywood landscape. James Brown's story belongs on this list because crime defined his early years. His later success did not erase that reality. It stood in contrast to it, showing how discipline learned through punishment could redirect a life headed toward permanent confinement. 6. Tracy Morgan faced deep poverty from a very young age. His neighborhood offered very few safe paths forward, and daily life was filled with pressure, stress, and uncertainty. As a teenager, 4. Melvin Williams lived one of the most extreme transformations on this list. Long before acting, he was one of the most powerful heroin dealers in Baltimore. He controlled large portions of the city's drug trade, operating at a level few ever reached. His life revolved around crime, money, and influence, and for years he avoided serious consequences. Eventually, the law caught up. Melvin was sentenced to federal prison, bringing an abrupt end to his reign. Prison stripped away status and control, leaving only time and reflection. During incarceration, he began to reassess his life choices. The damage caused by his actions became impossible to ignore. After his release, Melvin committed himself to change. He became a community activist, working to prevent others from following the same path. His story was so deeply connected to Baltimore's drug history that it later inspired the character Yvonne Barksdale on The Wire. Ironically, Melvin himself appeared on the show playing a preacher. His criminal past was not a rumor or legend, it was documented history. His transition into acting came after crime, not before. His life fits this title perfectly, showing how someone once deeply embedded in criminal power could later stand in front of cameras as a symbol of transformation and reflection. 3. Ice-T's life before fame was shaped by street hustling and constant risk. Growing up in Los Angeles, he became involved in crime during his teenage years. He sold cannabis, stole car stereos, and later escalated into armed jewelry robberies. These were not small mistakes. They were serious crimes that carried heavy consequences. What separated Ice-T from many others was observation. He watched close friends get arrested and sentenced to long prison terms. Those moments served as warnings. He realized that prison was no longer a possibility. It was approaching fast. Instead of waiting for arrest, he chose to step away from crime while he still could. Music became his exit. He began telling real stories about street life, not to glorify it, but to expose its dangers. His honesty helped him stand out and eventually opened doors beyond music. Hollywood later cast him in acting roles that mirrored his past experiences, including playing law enforcement characters with depth and realism. Ice-T's criminal past came long before fame and acting. It shaped his voice, his image, and his understanding of consequence. His journey fits this title because he did not pretend to know the streets. He survived them, then used acting and storytelling to move far beyond them. 2. Felicia Pearson's life before Hollywood was not shaped by dreams of acting or fame. It was shaped by survival in one of Baltimore's most dangerous environments. Growing up in neighborhoods dominated by drugs, violence, and instability, she was pulled into street life at a very young age. Crime was not distant or optional. It was part of everyday reality. By her early teenage years, Felicia was already deeply involved in drug culture, surrounded by people far older and more dangerous than herself. At just 14 years old, her life took a tragic and irreversible turn. She was convicted of second-degree homicide and sentenced to prison. While most teenagers were attending school or discovering hobbies, Felicia was learning how to survive behind bars. She spent several years incarcerated, losing crucial years of childhood to consequences far beyond her age. Prison forced her to grow up quickly in an environment built on control, fear, and discipline. After her release, Felicia struggled to adjust to life outside. Opportunities were limited, and her past followed her everywhere. Unexpectedly, her real-life story caught the attention of creators working on The Wire. Her background directly inspired the character she would later play. She did not need acting lessons to portray street life. she had lived it. Her performance stood out because it was raw, honest, and deeply real. Hollywood did not change her past, but it gave her a platform. Felicia used her visibility to warn others about the dangers of street life and the cost of fast choices. Her story fits this title because her criminal past was real, documented, and life-altering. Acting came after prison, not before, making her journey one of the most powerful transformations on this list. 1. Charles S. Dutton. Charles S. Dutton's path to Hollywood began in one of the darkest places imaginable. Raised in a violent and unstable environment in Baltimore, he grew up surrounded by crime, anger, and constant danger. As a teenager, he was already hardened by the streets, reacting to conflict with instinct rather than restraint. At 17, his life changed forever when he became involved in a fatal street fight. He was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to prison. While incarcerated, his troubles did not end. Additional charges related to weapons and assault added more time to his sentence. Prison was not a temporary setback. It became his world for years. Violence, hierarchy, and survival ruled daily life. Many people in his position would have accepted that fate as permanent. Instead, something unexpected happened. While behind bars, Charles discovered acting through a prison theater program. For the first time, he found a way to express emotion without violence. Theater gave him structure, discipline, and purpose. He eventually started his own prison theater group, helping others channel their frustration into creativity instead of aggression. Even more remarkably, Charles earned a college degree while still incarcerated. Education became his way out, not just legally, but mentally. After his release, he continued studying acting and slowly rebuilt his life from the ground up. Hollywood later recognized his talent and intensity, qualities shaped directly by lived experience. His story fits this title perfectly. Crime defined his early life, prison nearly consumed it, and acting rebuilt it. His success was not luck. It was the result of transformation earned under the harshest conditions. These stories prove that the past doesn't always get the final say. Some mistakes could have ended everything. Yet somehow, these stars turned chaos into careers and darkness into fame. But how many stories like this are still hidden, never told, or quietly rewritten once success shows up? If this surprised you, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who believes people can change. And be honest, which story shocked you the most?